That Show, starring Joan Rivers. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Joan.
Today, we have a lot of women in the audience, and that's good. I see you, though. You're adorable and you're a man. But we're going to be talking about Mrs. Parkinson's Law, which is written by C. Northcote Parknson, who wrote Mr. Parkinson's Law. And now we're going to find out what women do, and to find out how to live with your husband and make the best of sometimes a bad situation. We had Renee Taylor. And I don't know, like the whole book, which I read last night, it's like, it tells you how to be able to live with yourself after marriage. You know? And that's not my problem. It's how to live with Edgar that I'm worried about. Because Edgar, God bless him, is very nice, but he's fussy. And the first day we got married, he made me go back to the church and sweep up the rice. So you know already what you got, right? You know, our first argument was over the wedding. I wanted a big wedding, and he didn't want to get married. But that worked out. I'm pretty happy. The thing is, you have to learn how to plan your day, you know? Like, in the morning, the first thing I do all my housework, then I get out of bed, I have a cup of coffee. Do it. You lie in bed. I just like this. A lot of things, though, I think is what's happened now. I'm married 3.5 years, and Edgar's starting to take me for granted. Is that happening with you? You know, they do. And I started to cry. Yes, thank you. Oh, isn't that? And I said to him, to you, I'm just a cook, I'm a chauffeur, I'm a laundress, you know, I'm a maid, that's all I am. And Edgar said, you're right. And he gave me 2 weeks' notice. But, I got very jealous because I got jealous of the secretary because he bought her a gift, and I got furious, you know? And it's a big deal. It's something she needs for the office, but I think a mink typewriter is very pushy. And I said to him, right out, I said to him, I'm telling you, right, I find you one more time with your secretary, and you are going to drive me into the arms of another man. And you know what he did? Gave me the keys to the car. That's what he did. In the beginning, it's fun. How long are you married now?
5?
Yes.
8 years.
8 years, very nice. Good, good, good. Thank God. How's it working out? Yeah, still playing around. Now, in the beginning, you play hide and seek. Remember those days? Yoo-hoo, I'm hiding in the closet. He jumps in with you, kiss, kiss, kiss. You know. Now I say I'm hiding in the closet. He locks the door. Thank goodness. It's a little different. It's true. The gift. When was the last time you got a gift in 8 years?
Oh, heavens to Betsy.
Exactly. He gave it to Betsy. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
You know, last night he fixed my radio.
He fixed your radio? That's the most tragic thing I ever heard. I got a set of luggage from Edgar, which I thought was great, but it was packed, which worried me. And I said to him, you know, I said, the romance is gone. I said that, and he said to me, how can you say that? It was quite tender. He said, I'm mad about you, he told me. I am insane. I am passionately in love with you. Then we shook hands and we went to sleep. So... I just want you to know, the lady we were talking to is Mrs. Palmer from, where in Long Island? Oceanside, Long Island. She was a very good sport, and that's darling of you. And now, to introduce, and I'm delighted because, as I said, I've read Parkinson's Law. We now have Mr. C. Northcote Parknson, who's written a new book called Mrs. Parkinson's Law, and it's a pleasure to have him on you. And for our other guests, there are very few lady comedians that you think, gee, they're great. And every time somebody stops me, like I'll be eating someplace fancy like Howard Johnson's, and people, you know, they come and they clutch at your flavors, and people say things like, gee, I think you're funny. And what do you say when you say Renee Taylor? She's not only a performer, but which is so great, she's an actress and she's a writer, and she's just written her own play, which is on Broadway now with her husband, which is nice. And it's called Lovers and Other Strangers, and it's very funny, and you should buy tickets. And I'm glad to have you on the show. How long are you married?
3.5 years.
It's exactly the same back?
The same time.
That's wild.
So how's with you? I can tell you stories, but what's the sense?
Now, are we at the bad stage, Mr. Parkinson?
At the bad stage of
Yeah,
what?
it's 3.5 years, the troubled years.
Oh, yes, I guess. Yes, of course, that's not the only bad stage.
What's the worst? No, because we're at the stage now when, like, the romance is over, kind of. I mean, like, you're happy you're married, right? Thank goodness.
Oh, yeah.
You know. But what you say, the romance goes out the window.
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. That's right.
That's when it happened. Around a Thursday, around 3 o'clock.
When it's raining.
Then what happens, Mr. Parkinson? What do we have to do to keep the romance going?
Well, there are various things not to do, of course.
All right, let's go with not to do.
So we'll cut out the secretaries and the various ideas of another romance, I think. What most people do after 2 years is they produce a baby. And I don't know whether that's romance, but it's a sort of adhesive.
Oh, that's one way to put it. But that's... all right, I had a baby, and Renee may have a baby. You don't
I
have one
may
yet?
have one any minute. I keep taking tests.
That's...
That's all I'm doing is taking tests.
Did the rabbit die?
I mean, we don't do anything at home. I just take tests.
All right, now what does a baby do? Does it cement the marriage, in quotes?
Oh, yes, it sort of adds an element of interest, or so they say. And then after another year or so, there's probably another baby, and of course that adds more interest again.
Depends how old the other baby is.
Oh, that's
Could be
true.
22 and you're in a lot of trouble.
I've heard of that.
Yes, that's...
Yeah. Of course, I know nothing about it. You would.
You're not married?
Oh, I'm married, all right.
Oh.
I've never heard of any of these sort of goings-on.
How long are you married, Mr. Parkinson?
I think it must be about 15 years when you work it out. I'm not as young as you.
Do you have any
This is
adhesives?
sad. Oh, yes, well, quite a lot, really.
Oh, children?
3, yes. Mm.
That's enough.
Yes, I sometimes thought it's almost too much.
What about now you, Mr. Parkinson? How did you keep your romance going? You mentioned in the book, which I was reading last night, you said that in the old days, the reason marriages worked out so well is that they never really were married. They didn't live as long as we did. So, like in the Middle Ages, you had a husband, fine, a couple of years, went to the Crusades, you got somebody else, you know?
That's right.
Now, you said there's 50 years, and what are you going to talk about?
Well, it's a problem, isn't it? My wife, of course, was lucky because she used to run what you call an agony column, a Dear Abby column. And that always gives you a lot to talk about. You get 100 letters a week from people about their real problems. There's always, you might solve the problems, but it gives you something to talk about at breakfast.
Yes. Do you find yourself ever running out of conversation now?
At breakfast, my husband makes his own.
That's...
I'm sleeping.
What about, do you ever, like we go to a restaurant, you can always spot the single and the married. The single is sitting there puffing away. Do you believe God is dead? Puff, puff, puff. Always talking. The married one, I read the menu and you look around. And it's, do you ever have that
Oh,
problem?
well, we work together. Well, you work with your husband,
yes.
so it's so terrific. We always have something to talk about.
Yes.
How much we're making.
What happens?
How
when-
much more you want?
Right.
What happens? Yeah, you wrote the play with your husband, right?
Oh, that was terrific. And I don't see how people can work together if they're not married, because we're locked up 24 hours at a time. And, I mean, if you have fights like that and you're not married, it's depressing.
What happens? Because when you bring it, like, I'll come off the show some days. My husband's the producer, and he'll say to me, "That was the stupidest thing anybody could have said." Makes you feel wonderful. Then, you know, go jump into bed. So, what would happen when you would have terrible fights? Did it really cause problems at all?
Oh, well, I always apologize, even when he's wrong, which is most of the time. I figure, what does it cost you, you know?
When you were writing something and, like, he would say to you, "This is completely wrong."
Oh, but he never does that. He always says it's terrific, but it's not funny.
Okay. What about, then, we couldn't work on your theory, Mr. Parkinson, in the book, where you say, like, when the wife is upset over things, she shouldn't call the husband. Now, what happens, like, Renee works with her husband?
Oh, it's fatal. Well, they're different. They're working together. But it's when the husband goes off to the office and the wife is left at the home and there's no one to confide in, no one to tell her troubles to, and then things get too much for her. It's one of those days, we say, when everything goes wrong. And it starts with bad news in the mail. The vacation plan has all come unstuck. the hotel having been destroyed by an avalanche. And so then there's probably a bad report on one of the kids from school. And then soon after that, she burns her frock with the iron, and then the saucepan boils over on the hot plate, and she realizes the whole of the universe is in a conspiracy against her.
That's a good day for me.
Well,
What do
on
you
one
do
of those
then?
good days, the fatal thing is to call the husband. That does no good at all, because he's in one of two situations. He's either in conference, fighting for his life against some god-awful scheme which some colleague has dreamt up, which is going to wreck the whole business. And he's fighting against that, and suddenly, in the middle, his wife rings up and starts babbling about having broken the china and all the rest of it. And he say, "Baby, hang up, and I'll see you this evening. Take a sedative or something." And, well, that's not too bad, because she realizes at least that other people have that
Well, what should she do if she doesn't call?
I'll tell you. Well, you bet she buys the book.
The book. What do you do, Renee?
I don't call, I go over there.
Well, it all depends where over there is, doesn't it?
I mean, I go to my husband's office, and they say he's having an important meeting, and I say it couldn't be as important as what just happened to me.
And he stands for it? He must be a good
sure.
guy.
I mean, they all discuss it at the meeting. I come in.
What do you do to calm yourself? Like with me, what I do, when it's really an upsetting day, I unplug every phone. I don't care who they are. It can't upset me. And I get back into bed with candy.
Right.
Just eat my way, and I figure nobody cares if you're fat anyhow. Sit there with the electric blanket on high, and I watch movies on television or my commercials. Get it?
Brilliant.
Brilliant segue. Welcome back. We're talking with Renee Taylor and Mr. Parknson, who wrote Mrs. Parkinson's Law, the new book. You mentioned about romantic love you think is bad, Mr. Parknson. Now, may I ask Renee a question about this? When you got married, were you in love?
Oh, yeah. The minute I saw his face, as he was walking towards me, I was in love.
That was your husband?
Yes. He had a very open, warm face. He's Italian. Is yours?
No, but I love
that's too
Italian
bad.
men.
Oh, they're great.
Oh,
And to be married to one, I mean, that's heaven.
Yeah.
But the first night he came over for dinner, well, you know, I'm Jewish, so I just opened a can of spaghetti and gave it to him, and he had never had that before, because his mother makes it.
But did you know each other long? How long were you when you got married? How long did you go on together?
It took me 6 months. But I was ready, you know, in a week. But it takes them longer. First, he had to find out that he was in love with me, which I told him very early. And then I said, just take it step by step, you know. Just try it for a couple of weeks. And then I said, just get engaged. What does it cost, you know? And I said, well, you know, we're this far. Let's get married and see what happens.
And it was 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, that's wrong, according to your book, Mr. Parknson, to get married because you're in love.
Well, if it happens too early in life, perhaps.
Why are you looking at me? I'm 23. The camera lies, that's all. But you said that in love is bad. You should love a person. They're always making that big differential, you know?
Oh, I don't think there is a difference there, do you, between being in love and
I'm not in love with my
loving,
mother.
You think?
I love my mother, you know, but I'm not in love with her.
Well,
It's a big difference.
it's a question of degree, maybe.
Yes.
And, of
Oh,
course,
you mean
a difference of sex
infatuation?
helps.
That's what you're talking about. You shouldn't get married if you're infatuated, right?
Right.
But love is friendship, respect, awareness, acknowledgement. I don't know anybody who feels that.
Well, I tried a definition of how much in love you have to be.
Yes.
And for me, the test is whether you want anything to be different. If you think of the girl and say, oh, she's fine, she's sweet, her voice is a bit irritating. Or if you say, yes, she's a lovely girl, wish she didn't have freckles. If there's anything that you feel is that you don't like, you're probably not in love with her. Because if you're really in love, even if you'd hated freckles until then you'll have decided that freckles are it. And any girl without freckles is just unlucky.
Yes, but then what
How's
happens after about 2 years? You take a look and say, freckles aren't it. You know, you go back to your old thing.
Oh, then you come back to the adhesive provided by the...
What if the adhesive has freckles?
That could well be.
Is there anything about your husband you would change?
No. Except that he's so pragmatic, you know, and I'm not at all. I don't know what pragmatic means. I wish he would tense up once in a while.
Yeah.
He's very easygoing all the time.
See,
But, I mean, day in, day out perfection would really be boring if you were married to somebody who was perfect.
And you probably tense up more because he is relaxed.
Very relaxed.
Yeah. I think that's always so. It's like catching a plane. If one partner wants to be there now before the plane goes, this drives the other in wanting to get to the airport 5 minutes after it's gone.
that's Edgar.
Which is...
We're invited for 7 o'clock dinner, and he goes there at 7 o'clock, and the hostess is saying, "Who is it?" You know. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, he's very prompt, and I tend, to come late. That's because he's English. I think Englishmen have better manners than Americans.
I wouldn't like to say that. I'd like to think it were true, but it probably isn't.
I think it really is. And they just brought up, this whole... But it can drive you out of your mind after a while. Tell me, you were talking about computers in your book. Did you ever try computer dating?
No, but I think that's a terrific idea.
He doesn't.
Oh,
No,
why
I
not?
don't. Well, it's difficult to brief the computer right. The computer works all right, but the people in feeding in the information haven't got all the information that they need, and therefore the computer doesn't know the answer. Now, put it this way, let's supposing that a guy falls for girl A and she refuses him. Then he falls for girl B and she's already married as it transpires and wants to leave it that way. And then he perhaps marries girl C, and then perhaps after that may even fall in love with girl D and cause some trouble later on. Well, it's only by the time he's got to D that he or anyone else knows what's in common between the 4 girls that he fell for. In this case, we'll say they all had an up-tilted nose. And he then realizes, when it's pointed out to him, that he couldn't possibly have fallen for a girl that hadn't an up-tilted nose, or maybe auburn hair. But it's only by the time you've got to the 4th one that the fact becomes known. And at the beginning, he doesn't know it himself. So he can't tell the computer what it needs to know.
Did you find that all the men you were in love with, well, then we'll go to the commercial, but were similar? Did they all have one thing in common?
They were all nuts.
We'll go to I'm now going to the audience, as you can see here, if your back is turned. And we're going to get questions, and then we'll get answers from our experts as soon as I pull the cord. It's a very simple show. Yes, a smart lady in a smart red dress. What's your name?
Mrs. George Culper,
From where?
Morris Plains, New Jersey.
Why not? Now, what's your question?
What do most married people talk about?
Divorce. What do you talk about mostly with your husband, Renee?
About trips we're going to take.
Have you ever gone away on any trips?
We took one trip, and we're about to take another one, and we're talking about places to go. And we always say Dakar or Ethiopia, the Canary Islands, but we go to Puerto Rico every time.
Yes, Lady in Blue. Your name. Give me your name and where you're from. That's always good.
Mrs. Margone from Manhattan.
Big deal, Manhattan. I thought you were saying Iowa. Go ahead.
Oh, I can do that.
You're very chic, though, so you can have Manhattan. Go on.
Do you think 2 people can have a perfect marriage?
Do you think 2 people can have a perfect marriage, Mr.
No.
Parknson?
No.
No.
You can have a very good marriage, but perfection is not in this world, least of all in human relationships.
Someone said that man and woman they could. Do you think you can have a perfect... Do you consider yours a perfect marriage, Renee?
For me, yes. Anything that I can sustain is perfect.
Yes, your name.
My name is Ann Danello, and I'm from Newark, New Jersey.
All right.
Do you think that most women try to change their husbands after they're married?
Or someone else? What do you think most women try to change their husbands, Mr. Parkinson?
Well, how should I know?
Did your wife try to change you?
I guess, but she's too tactful to say so.
What about you, Renee? Have you tried to change anything subtly?
At the beginning I did, but then I just got exhausted. So I try to accept him, and he likes me the way I am.
As long as they figure, well, that's her habits, but she's a good kid. Yes.
This is Palmer from Oceanside. Hi there. Should a wife let her husband know how much money she has?
A loaded question. Of course, Edgar, never. Do you let your husband know how much money you've got, Renee? Do you share?
Oh, always. I've never understood women that had separate accounts and men who had separate accounts. And I give him all the money, but then once in a while I take $5 off the dresser.
Yeah. I take two. But what about you, Mr. Parkinson?
We have a joint account, too. So I guess she knows as much as I do.
Don't any of you, because I give Edgar 2 bills. One what it costs I keep, and one what he thinks it costs I give him. Does anyone else do that? Always. You know, it just kills me.
But what are you saving for?
I'm not saving, but if he knew what I spent on the sofa, I'd be at the window ahead of the sofa. So I gave him a price that he's happy with, and you know, then we can live together. Do you do that? Thank you very much. Anybody else? Question? Yes, another lady up here. Yes.
Do married people live longer?
The statistics show
Live
it.
longer than what?
I think it just seems that way.
I've heard that they do. And
Yes.
some women drive their husband to an early grave, though.
But no, I've heard that married people live long. Yes, there's one more lady. What's your name?
Oh, I'm Mrs. Giordano from Brooklyn.
All right. Now, over here. Yes.
I'm Barbara Nash from Chester, Maryland. What do you do with a real affectionate husband? You know, we can kiss all day long.
You put him in a closet and kiss him. Wouldn't that be great?
That's your problem?
That's a problem. I want to get your perfume.
Oh, that's terrific.
Are you still very affectionate, Mr. Parkinson, with your wife?
Oh, very, yes. Oh, yes.
I think that counts. Doesn't that count, Renee, the
Oh,
little
yeah,
things?
we kiss in public, and I love it. I love it.
Who do you kiss?
My husband.
We have just a few seconds to say, please buy Mrs. Parkinson's Law, Mr. Parkinson, a pleasure. Renee, if you're pregnant, I'll give you all my maternity clothes and come back and get it. I'm sure to have you on.
If you'd like to see the show when you're in New York, write Joan Rivers tickets, Fox 850, Radio City Station, New York, 10019. Miss Rivers' guests stay at the Hotel Commodore while in New York.